Alright, so I'm going to show you how to create a new record in Collective Access. That is, how to catalog a new artifact, book, or document, things like that. So you'll want to start here in the New tab. This drop-down menu will take you to Objects, and you can select the type of object that you would like to catalog, whether it's an artifact, a book, a document, a piece of ephemera, etc. And I'm just going to show you how to catalog an artifact for now. The fields for the rest of the types of objects are very similar, so once you can catalog an artifact, the rest of them are basically the same. So we'll start here. The first thing you'll see is access. This will let you control whether or not it is seen by the public or not. So you can choose yes, accessible, no, accessible, or with restricted access. So choose one of those. The next thing that you'll want to do is create an object identifier, and this is a unique number that every object in the collection must have. And the way that you create an object ID is by taking the last two numbers of the current year, so for 2013 it's 13, period, and then a 3-digit number. Now each of these must be unique for the objects, but Collective Access will let you know if you are trying to create a duplicate number. So I just tried to create 004 and it will tell you that the identifier is already in use. So for this object, I happen to know that 002 is not being used, so we'll use that one. Next is the title, and this is the title that will show up with in the record of the item in the search results and things like that. So you want to make sure that it is fairly descriptive. We're going to catalog this artifact, which is the buffalo chip. The next field here is creator, and if you know who the creator was, if you know who the author or the manufacturer, whoever created the item, you can add it here. So there's a space for the institution that it came from, if you know that, if it came from somewhere else, and then if you happen to know the first and the last name of the person that created it, you can add it there. If you don't know, it's not a required field, you don't have to add it. The next thing that you'll want to denote is where the item is located. We have a few options here. So building, you can decide which building it is in, whether it's in the education classroom, down in Georgetown, or on the shop shelves. If it's not in a building and it's just in a trunk, you can select none, and then you'll want to put the trunk number, and this item happens to be in a trunk, and the way that you tell what trunk it is, the number format is T, capital T for trunk, and then a 3-digit number. So there's only one trunk right now, so it's T001. The other thing you'll want to denote is the quantity, and we'll say there's one of these. But you'll notice that you can add as many locations as you want. So if you have an item which you have multiples of, and that they might be stored in multiple different locations, this is how you can tell where and how many of the item there are. So for mouth harps, for example, is an object where there are quite a few of them, and they might be stored in different places. So if you know that in the education classroom there are 4, you can add that, and then say you also know that for this particular item in Georgetown there are 6, and they're located on shelf 1 in box 36. So you can add as many locations as you want, and this is a great way to keep track of how many and where the items are. And if you accidentally add too many locations or you want to remove one, you can just click the X here and remove them. So the next field is physical description, and this is where you list any distinguishing features, colors, anything special. If there's something engraved on it or a note on it, you'll want to include that here. And you can also make a note about its condition if you want to, if it's in good condition, if it's sort of falling apart, things like that. So for this we'll just say buffalo chip and that it's brown and in good condition. Okay, next you can associate different themes with it So you add a theme, and this is related to something in settlement. It happens to be in the settlement in Puget Sound trunk, so we'll add settlement as a related theme. But if you also wanted to relate it to something about exploration, you could add that, and again, as many as you want. So you can associate as many or as few themes as you would like with the object. The next thing that you want to add is the time period, so about when the object was being used, and not necessarily when it was created. So again, you can add as many or as few as you want, and they are in 50-year spans, with the exception of a few specific years where there may be a lot of objects associated with that specific year. So 1909, 1889, and 1962 are those. But again, you can add, as many as you want to cover the time span that you want for that object. The next thing that you can add is the original use, so the type of thing that the object was used for originally, whether it was clothing, it was used for cooking or cleaning, which would be maybe domestic. If it was occupational, so used for farming or agriculture and things like that, or whether it was used for recreation. Again, this you can choose one or many, so choose domestic and maybe occupational. And then here are where the sets that have been created will show up. So you can also associate it with a certain set here. And again, a set is just a user-created list of objects or items within the collection that are pulled together for some reason. So maybe it's a potential trunk, or it's a new program, things like that. You can add it to a set there. So we'll say that we're going to add it to this group, which is labeled batch edit. Finally, what you want to do, or what you can do, is relate it to a collection. And a collection, you can see up here, a collection includes programs and trunks. So these are themed collections of items that will be used for either one of these things. And the nice thing about this is that it will auto-suggest them for you. So I believe that we have one right now called Settlement in Puget Sound. Yeah, so you can select Settlement in Puget Sound, and it will let you know, it will show you the relationship here that now this object is a part of Settlement in Puget Sound trunk, which is really nice. And again, if it happens to show up in more than one trunk, you can add more than one relationship. Okay, after you've done all that, you'll want to hit save. And it will let you know that it's added this artifact. Now over here, there are a few different screens that have other information on them. So basic info is sort of the first screen that has the most important information. You want to start there for sure. The next screen that you can go to is the administrative info, and this is back-end sort of information about the object if you want to add it. So here, if you want to add a little bit more information about the condition of the object, maybe if it needs repairs or anything, you can add that here. Administrative notes might be a note about the provenance of the object, or any other sort of relevant information that doesn't necessarily fit in any of the other fields. Accession date, if that's something you want to include, you can add that here. And how much it was purchased for, if it was a piece of supplies or something like that you wanted to add the purchase price, that's where you would do it. So that is it. Then you have created a new object. It will show up for you in your searches and within the database. And so the next thing that we'll do is talk about how to create a new collection. So what it looks like to create a new program or a trunk. And this is very, very similar to creating a new artifact. So we'll, if we want to make a new trunk, we'll go here. And again, it looks very, very similar. So you'll want to add in a new title and the collection identifier. So let's say we're making a trunk about the Alaska Yukon Pacific Exposition. I'll add the title there. The collection identifier, again, for the trunk is a capital T and then a 3-letter number. And here it will suggest for me the next number that I might want to use. And just like when you're creating a new object, this number must be unique, but Collective Access will also let you know if you're trying to use a number that's already been used. So T002, and here's where you would add a brief description. So and I do learn how to spell around it. You'll probably want to fill out the description a little bit better than I have here, but this is just for an example. Okay, and again, you can, just like with an object, you can add a related theme. So we would probably want to associate the Alaska Yukon Pacific Exposition with this trunk, so we'll leave that there. And then that's it, and you will hit save. So the next screen here, now that you filled out the basic info that you can use, is this relationship screen. And in the relationship screen, you can associate specific objects with this trunk. So basically, you can say which objects you want included in the trunk. So if I wanted to include, let's just say the buffalo chip that we just cataloged. I don't know why you would, but maybe you would. You can either start typing the object ID or the name of the object, and that's it. And then you can add as many as you want. So let's see, I also know that we have a blue willow china plate in here, and so you can add that there. So in addition to being able to associate an object with a trunk, you can also, from the creation of the trunk, associate objects with it. So you can go both ways. You can either add objects to a trunk as you're creating a record for the object, or as you're creating a new trunk, you can add items into it from there.